Hey guys, before I start today's video, there's a few things that I want to talk to you about that I think are important, so let's do that really quick. First of all, CG released a pretty big update that you probably had to install within the last 24 hours, so let's go over what's in that update right now. So recently they did a kit reveal for the Black Beast, which you've probably seen Swag's video, but if you haven't, I'm going to put a link to it down below. Well, this update, they talk about what the adventure is going to look like. It's a pretty standard 7-tier where you're getting 20 shards per the first 5 tiers, and then the last 2 are like rewards based. There are also a lot of things happening over here in the supplies, so let's go take a look at that right now. The first thing you might notice is that Eldred and the Brute are gone. They have moved out onto guild nodes. Eldred is on guild node number 1, 2, and the Brute is on light hard node 2, 4. So they should be a little easier for you to farm. You can finish that Rohan squad if you've been putting it off. Now in their place, Denethor is going to be here until he is likely also placed on a node. Bifur has moved into the guild supplies, which similar to Legolas and Elrond is pretty good if Thorin is in fact the next legendary. But the most interesting thing is this. Let's take a look in the challenge store, right? The cost of things have changed. Instead of 2 shards for 1,000 currency and 5 shards for 2,500, it has changed to 5 shards for 1,500 and 10 shards for 3,000. Now, you may notice this changes the cost of shards from 500 to 300. And by the way, this also includes the recently added Tabib. So congrats everyone, hashtag free Tabib worked. There was also a whole host of bug fixes mentioned, and they also gave us what's gonna be on the November calendar. It's Grimlers and Ujan. So there you go. The second thing is actually a favor. See, I'm over on twitch.tv/Polaroid Puffin, and I'm trying to make a run at affiliate, so I'm hoping that you can help me out by going over and following. The link will be in the description. This is nothing to do with trying to monetize any of this. It's more so about a sense of accomplishment. I've been streaming for years, and this would be really cool for me. Although, if and when any of this content makes money, just know that that money's going to go right back into the game and the content. So that way I can be a little more competitive, I can be a little more entertaining for you, and also it helps me to get the experience and knowledge that I need to pass on to you. So without further delay, let's jump into our video. Your arena screen probably... Wait. Isn't this the week of Halloween? Ooh. Hold on. Well, hi there. Let's make a video. Your squad arena screen probably looks something like this. Or at least it probably will very soon. And there's a good reason for that. With Elrond being the current meta in the game, and also with his marquee event coming back right now, it stands to reason that Elrond's going to be everywhere. But, luckily, unlike Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, you can set your defense and then attack with a completely different team. So, today I want to talk about how good Elrond is in the Mines of Moria raid, as well as a few ways that you can potentially counter Elrond's team in the arena. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about Elrond. Elrond is the son of Irandil and Elwing. He is the father of Elladan, Elrahir, and Arwen. He is the ring-bearer of Velia, one of the 3 rings of power for the Elven kings under the sky. And of course, he is the Lord of Rivendell. Elrond is easily one of the most recognizable characters in all of the lore of Middle-earth, having been in The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, and even Tolkien's unfinished tales. he's also a great healer and a great warrior, which really shows through in the game. Having been born in the First Age, Elrond was one of the most important figures fighting back against Sauron in the Second and Third Ages. He saw a lot of strife and fought in a lot of battles. In the Second Age, at the direction of Gil-galad, Elrond led forces in aid of Eregion, which was under attack by Sauron. However, he brought too few elves, and Eregion was crushed under Sauron's thumb. It was only after a surprise attack from the rear of Sauron's forces by the Doran's folk of Khazad-dûm that allowed the Noldor to escape and establish the stronghold Imladris. They held the fortress for 5 long years before they were liberated by the forces of Gil-galad and Tar-Minastir. It was at this time that Elrond was appointed vice-regent of Eriador, and he was given the Ring of Air, Velia. Also in the Second Age, Elrond took part in the War of the Last Alliance, which is when, this happened. Isildur swiftly removed the ring from Sauron's now fingerless hand. Elrond and Círdan tried to convince him to destroy it, but judging by the fact that the events of The Lord of the Rings happened much later, well, we all know how that went. With the death of Gil-galad in that war, Elrond returned to Rivendell as its lord, and with his newly acquired Ring of Air, he saw it prosper for millennia. In the Third Age, Elrond got married and had children. He and Celebrian of Lothlorien were wed in the year 109 of the Third Age, and soon after, the twins Elladan and Elrohir were born in the year 130, and Arwen was born in the year 241. In the year 1409, Rivendell was sieged by Angmar, but they managed to fend them off and then joined the Elves of Lindon in defeating and subduing the Witch King for many years to come.
2,000 years later.
At the same time as the quest for Erebor, remember this handsome man? Elrond, as a member of the White Council, invaded Dol Guldur in order to drive out the Necromancer, whom they had discovered was actually Sauron in disguise. Doesn't that sound familiar? During the War of the Ring, Elrond served mostly an advisory role. He presided over the Council of Elrond, pretty much selected the Fellowship of the Ring, and affirmed Frodo's decision to carry the ring. At the end of that war, Elrond joined Galadriel, Gandalf, and Bilbo and Frodo Baggins on the White Ship so that they could sail west. Now that we know a little bit more about Elrond, let's take a look at what he does in the game through his kit. Here. He has a basic, ageless wisdom that yes does damage, but also grants stacks of regeneration, which is pretty good. His special one, Velia's Light, not just heals all squad members, but also grants a stack of regeneration, grants stacks of defense, and also revives a fallen elf ally, which is crazy. And then of course we have his special 2, the Wrath of Rivendell, which is an AoE that not just pulls back turn meter from all the enemies, but also inflicts slow, making it harder for them to get that turn meter back. Now let's take a look at his passive, House Eternal. That says at the start of his turn, he heals the most wounded ally, and grants them a stack of counterattack. And that's already pretty good. But it goes further. The first time Elrond reaches 40% health, he gains a stack of Unbreakable for each Rivendell ally. That's potentially up to 5 stacks of Unbreakable, and that's really good. Let's also take a look at the leadership ability, Lord of Rivendell. And this says, each time a Rivendell ally starts their turn, if they have no Banes, and that if is going to come back into play, they gain Fortitude, and 2 of their boons are going to be extended for an extra turn. So that regeneration that you get from Elrond himself and Arwen is going to get extended for a turn. That stealth that Elrohir has, that can get extended for a turn. And also, it says elf allies gain 4% damage per boon on themselves, up to 5 boons. That's an extra 20% damage potential, and that's also pretty good. And then light allies gain 10% extra max health. So altogether, his leadership ability encompasses all light characters, but you're really getting the best bang for your buck on your Rivendell elves. So what does Elrond look like on offense? And that's a great question if you've just unlocked him. Well, the answer is he's really good. He's great at keeping his allies alive, especially elves, especially Rivendell elves. And he does it by extending boons, he does it by healing, by granting regeneration, by granting fortitude, and of course, with a revival. And he keeps himself alive with up to 5 stacks of Unbreakable. And even though he's a support character, he's no pushover on offense. He has an AoE that does a lot of damage, and it slows down the enemy, making an already pretty fast elf team even faster. Let's start with Chapter 1. In Chapter 1, in the first wave, all Rivendell can really do is basic until the bomb drops, but that's okay, because it's the subsequent waves where they really start to shine. You have multiple AoEs between Elrond himself and Elladan, and you can hit multiple bombers at the same time with those, which is pretty good. And of course there is a lot of healing, so you can get to those later waves and really increase your score in difficulty 3+. In Chapter 2, your survivability again becomes important. You have the healing, and you have the revive to keep you in the fight longer, which is going to be important. You're going to have the cleanse from Arwen, and you're going to have a slow for when the troll is toppled, which is also important. Now I have read that you can take Elrond out of the leadership spot and plug in Legolas, because Legolas's leadership ability turns dodges into crit chance and turns crits into haste, which again turns your already fast elf team into an even faster elf team. In Chapter 3, the name of the game is Survive, and we already know that Rivendell has the survivability, but they also have a steady source of nimble to get more bonus points, and they have a slow and a cleanse in order to take more turns and build up more points. You can also try to remove Elrahir and plug in Naramiri for the defensive and the healing for even more points. And as an interesting note, Elrond's Revive actually revives captured characters. Now, Chapter 4 isn't easy, of course, but Rivendell has the survivability and the damage output to do it pretty well. You of course have multiple specials on the team that don't involve attacking, so you can use those to avoid missing while blind. And you can use Arwen's Cleanse to get rid of those blinds and the burns. Now the idea is to try and do as much damage as quickly as possible, and the team's pretty good at that. Once again, you can try slotting in Naramiri to get the extra cleanse and the extra healing. So Elrond is really good, of course, but there are potentially ways that you can counter him in the arena. Let's talk about them. Now I've heard in my research about 4-ish teams that can beat Elrond, starting of course with a mirror match, which is really just you outsmarting the AI and killing their Elrond before they kill your Elrond, and that's kind of the idea behind all of the counters. Now, my next counter is the Rohan trio because it's probably the most accessible to everybody, and as you can see, the idea behind the Rohan trio counter is kind of just out DPSing the other team and killing Elrond as fast as possible. And once Elrond's dead, the team kind of crumbles after that. So you just want to hit as hard as you can with Eomer, keep the taunt on Eothane, and just keep on hammering Elrond, and you should be able to win that fight. The next counter is actually Haradrim. Now, Tawna and AP Gaines talked about this way back, and the idea is that the Black Serpent's poison that you get from Rebel is going to prevent the Rivendell elves from gaining all of those boons and using them against you. Now, I have heard that it is very difficult to do at the higher levels in Mithril and in Champion, but at the mid-range Gold, it's very doable. And my fourth counter for you is mostly speculation right now, but I've heard that Isengard can be a pretty good counter. You're handing out a lot of Banes, so keep them from gaining Fortitude, and it's giving you passive healing, and you can whittle down Elrond while they're forced to mostly attack your Ugluk, so it's a pretty good combo. and you can probably beat them out in the War of Attrition. Now, it's probably like a 50-50 toss-up, but it can be done. Well, I think that's gonna pretty much do it for today's video. Do you have Elrond? Are you unlocking him this week? Do you have any questions about him? Leave a comment down below and let's talk about it. Maybe we can get you some answers. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, please go over to Twitch and follow me there. And I will see you next week. There's a couple things that I want to talk about that I think you should. So now, instead of 2 shards per 1,000 mother, Elrond is the father. No, he is a father, but he's not. Isildur swiftly removed the ring from Sauron's. In the year 1409. In the year 1409. In the year 1409. Gold Dolgor. Gold. He gains a stack of Unbreakable for each of what? They have big elf girls. I was right there. Cut it. Stop it there. That's good.